All right, planet Earth, you wanted the best, you got the best.
Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll.
Dave Erickson, Mark Anderson.
Locked and loaded.
When it comes to talk, they're the purveyors of power, the bailiffs of bombast, rock and roll renegades.
We're about to witness the greatest miracle of the machine age.
Turn it up to 11. Here they are, Mark and Dave. Let there be rock.
All right. Yes, episode 3. We have made it, Mark. I've got this new soundproofing thing. I feel like an idiot.
Looks like you have a big mask on.
I'm Dave Erickson.
I'm Mark Anderson.
And this is Let There Be Rock. Thank you for joining us. Man, we have had some incredible reaction the last couple of weeks to this thing. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
It's really cool having comments, both email and by SoundCloud.
We've been online for a couple of weeks, and already last week we did an episode where we talked about the genius that is Lemmy from Motorhead. And already we had some comments from people complaining that we didn't mention their favorite bass players who were the frontmen for their band. Mark, we talked about that with Lemmy.
We did, and the whole thing was, for one thing, we were talking about Lemmy and Motorhead, and not about any other bands. They may have gotten brought up during the show, but the whole focus was Lemmy and Motorhead.
Right. And we talked about how it was a rare thing to have a bass player like Lemmy fronting a band and being as identified and as distinguishable to the band as Lemmy was. And somebody goes, "Oh, hey, man, what about Geddy Lee?" Well, we talked about Geddy Lee already in that episode, but Mark, are we ready? We have to now apologize to other bass-playing frontmen?
I don't think so. I think everyone knows, especially if you're a bass player and you're in a band, how important Lemmy is to Motorhead.
Right. So we're not going to apologize to Kip Winger or Geddy Lee or Jack Bruce or Tom Araya from Slayer or Sting. Sorry. Because, as we talked about, their bass playing didn't identify the band. You can't take Lemmy out of you can't separate the two. You could hire a bass player, have Lemmy sing, it wouldn't be Motorhead, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And by the way, there is no apologies on this show.
That's right, there are no apologies. So that's the end of that. We're closing it. All right, now on to this week's business. The theme of this week's episode is...
Are they a tribute band?
Tribute band or not tribute band?
There you go.
It's going to be a fun one.
You know, a tribute band, cover band, whatever. You know, it's like you go and you see certain bands. You pay top dollar to go see bands, usually from the 80s. It seems like there's a lot of that.
Primarily.
From the 70s, the 80s, whatever. And they might not have all of the original members. So when you go to see that band, is that a tribute band or is it the actual band? So let's talk specifics, right, Mark?
Let's do.
All right. So if you pay money to go see Foreigner, is that a tribute band or is that Foreigner?
Are they a tribute band?
Now, I've seen them twice over the last few years, and I grew up on Foreigner. Lou Gramm is the voice of Foreigner. Kelly Hansen, he's a great singer. The guy from, was it Hurricane or something like that? I don't know.
He was huge.
Oh, boy, was he. So I personally, I consider Foreigner a tribute band because there's times when Mick Jones doesn't even show up.
Well, that's just it. There's not a single original member. They're all hired guns. And the one guy in Foreigner who is the original guitar player, Mick Jones, some days he's not even there. That is a tribute band.
Yes, tribute band all the way.
Ding, ding, ding. But here's the sad thing about that, though, Mark, is I was watching Access TV once, and they had a Foreigner concert, and they do those, those jib camera shots over the crowd. And
right.
People are so excited. And I would say 90% of the people in that audience had no idea that this was a tribute band they were watching.
I'm sure because and I'll give Foreigner this, that except for Lou Gramm, a lot of the other guys are kind of faceless back in the 70s, but still, they were on Head Games, Double Vision, Foreigner 4. And none of them are there now.
Yeah, but to those people who were having fun on a Friday night, having some drinks, they went out with their friends from the 70s, 80s, whatever. They all remember those. They didn't care.
They just paid $100 for a tribute band.
A tribute band. You could go to a local bar and grill and see for a $5 cover, but whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's go. This one for me is difficult, but so let's go for Boston.
Are they a tribute band?
Well, I saw them again within about the same time frame as Foreigner, just by chance. And because Tom Schultz is the creative force and he is the one that wrote all the music for the first couple albums, and Gary Peel was on third stage for a song, so we got kind of pull that in. But Tom Schultz is the guy, and even though Brad Delp sang on those songs, and maybe if he was here today, he would come back, but we don't have the opportunity. So I'm going to say Boston is not a tribute band just because of Tom Schultz.
Well, gosh, I think under normal circumstances, I would say they are a tribute band. However, to your point, Tom Schultz, he is Boston. He invented the sound, the tone, the song. He wrote the songs, the music for the songs. Boston ceases to exist without him. He was Boston.
Most definitely. I mean, he's the one that in his basement created all the music, and he got the people around him that he thought would do it justice. So it is his band.
So all right. So we'll go with not a tribute band.
Yes.
Here's one that I think you're gonna have fun talking about. All right.
You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest band in the world. Kiss.
Are they a tribute band?
Kiss on tour right now. Paul Stanley lip syncing. That's a different episode for a different day. All right. All right. They've got Paul and Gene, the originals. They're touring with two imposters playing Ace and Peter on guitar and drums. Is Kiss a tribute band or is Kiss not a tribute band?
I'm going to say not. And reasoning being, Paul and Gene they're the guys that started the whole band. They got Ace and Peter in the first place. They write the lyrics, and you both of them sing. They've been the driving force the whole time. And Eric Singer has been with them in the days when they had no makeup.
All right, I'm willing to concede on that because they have Tommy Thayer, who is playing the part of Ace Frehley in this version of Kiss, and Eric Singer playing Peter Criss. They're not their own unique personalities in the makeup. They are dressed as other guys. But because you do have the originals who started the band, and Gene and Paul, yeah, it's not a tribute band. But I would say if Ace and Peter were in Kiss, right, they were there, and they had two guys playing Paul and Gene, then I would say it was a tribute band.
Exactly. And I totally agree with you about Eric and Tommy playing Peter and Ace. It's weird. They could have had their own personas, but they chose not to, and to make them look like the original guys. That really does bother me a lot.
Oh yeah, well, how would Gene like that if they went off, if Paul toured with a guy dressed like the Demon, Gene Simmons? Gene wouldn't be happy with that, and Paul wouldn't be happy that if Gene did that to him.
Well, the first thing Gene would do is sue him.
That's true. Although Ace and Peter, they didn't sue, but they do get, Ace said he gets quarterly checks because he did sell them the rights. He licensed the rights to his spaceman persona.
Which I think is, another thing is they both came up with their own characters and did their own makeup back in the day. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sure they have a makeup artist doing that and making them look like Peter and Ace. That bothers me too.
Yeah. It just irritates the tar out of me that Tommy Thayer gets to walk out there like he's some guitar god when he was a guy who was in an actual tribute band. He was in a Kiss tribute band.
He's a fraud.
That's yeah.
Speaking of guys who are in tribute bands who somehow made it to the big leagues, let's talk about Judas Priest.
Yeah, and I saw them with Ripper Owens.
Tim Ripper Owens was the guy who replaced Rob Halford when Rob Halford quit as singer.
Exactly. And so I saw them, and all the other the classic lineup was the band. It was just Tim is one that traded out. It was a good show, but it wasn't Rob Halford. It wasn't a tribute band, but in a way it was. It's just a really fine line during that period.
That's a very fine line. They got a guy from an actual tribute band to replace Rob Halford. And Rob Halford, he is one of the all-time greats.
He's a metal god.
There's few can compare to Rob Halford. So it's difficult to replace him, but he left. Ripper Owens came in. I'm not so sure that Judas Priest was a tribute band.
Now that you say that, Tim did 2 albums with him, 2 studio albums and 2 live albums. So he did have his own material with Judas Priest. So I definitely give that as a big plus. So that fine line would go more for not a tribute band, just because they did their own music with Tim.
Okay, so the verdict is not a tribute band. Okay, we got a whole list still to go. Mark, what do you got over there?
This is another one that's kind of like Boston to me. Whitesnake.
Are they a tribute band?
Ooh, now we've talked about this. David Coverdale is Whitesnake. Now there's him and Tommy Aldridge, who is about 1,000 years old.
Get off my lawn.
So you've got the drummer, you've got the singer, and on guitar, they have Joel Hoekstra, who has not been with them that long, and he was admittedly a hired gun. That's what he has been this whole time. But on the other side of that, he's also written and recorded music with Whitesnake for a new album.
Correct.
So the way I see it, as long as David Coverdale is still there, Whitesnake is not a tribute band, because from way back, all the way back to the 80s, Whitesnake has pretty much been a band of hired guns. I mean, David Coverdale employed a lot of musicians for hire.
He did. I mean, starting with the whole period before Slide It In, I mean, all those guys were a totally different lineup. And then from Slide It In, they got John Sykes. And then he played on that album, and then the Whitesnake from 89. And then they started rotating people out, like with Steve Vai. But like you said, David Coverdale is Whitesnake, like Lemmy is Motorhead, or Tom Schultz is Boston.
If David left and Tommy went and hired another singer to replace David, that would be a tribute band.
Correct.
Yeah. So Whitesnake, not a tribute band. I get being a musician, Mark, and trying to make a paycheck. I understand that. And, the name of a band is a commodity. That's why they go to court and they fight over the names. The guys in Rat went to court famously. It was in litigation forever over who owned the name Rat. But the point is that I'm making is that obviously when you own a band name, that's a coveted commodity if you were successful at one point.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the people we have just talked about, they own that name, and they were the ones that made it successful to begin with. With Rat, that was a combination of all those people. Right. With Stephen Pearcy, with Warren DeMartini, and Bobby Blotzer, and the late Robin Crosby. And so you really have, when you split those into 2 different bands, and you have Bobby Blotzer as the drummer and no one else, and then they call a Rat. I don't think so.
And so when you have the name, again, it's hard to argue against somebody trying to make a living if they have an opportunity to use that name. But there does come a point when you cross that line to where you're paying tribute, and that's really all you are. And to me, the band that most sort of embodies all of that right now is Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Are they a tribute band?
100%. They pay tribute to Ronnie Van Zant, to Steve Gaines, and to Cassie Gaines, and the people who died in that plane crash every single night they perform. Lynyrd Skynyrd died in 1977.
Agreed. I mean, that's where all the classic music was from then back.
And if you look at the lineup now, you've got Gary Rossington, who's the only original, the only one. You have Ricky Metlock.
Yeah, and he played drums on their demo.
That's right. That's about it. But you've got Gary Rossington. You do not have Artemis Pyle on drums. You don't have Alan Collins. You don't have Ronnie Van Zant. You don't have Ed King, who wrote their huge, biggest classics musically. You don't have Billy Powell on keyboards.
Yeah, that was huge.
And so
And Leon Wilkinson.
And Leon Wilkinson on bass. And so you have Johnny Van Zant, who somehow thinks he's Ronnie Van Zant. Dude, you ain't in Leonard Skinner, man. And Mark and I talked about this before, where Johnny, if you were as good as Ronnie, you would have been famous when you were a solo artist.
Right. And you know, I'll say that he does give props to his brother each and every night when he performs.
Tribute.
But a tribute to his brother, which means to me, this band is a tribute band, especially with, there is a big band, there's only one left.
So, Leonard Skinner, tribute band. All right, so you brought up one, Mark, when we were doing some show prep, that I was like, ooh, you brought up Journey.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So
here we go.
All right. So Journey.
Are they a tribute band?
All right. Mark, make your case. Make your case.
Okay.
I'm really dying to hear this.
Okay. So for me, Journey is a tribute band because I'll give Arnell, he did one album with them, but way after.
Their new singer he didn't replace Steve Perry because there was another guy in between Steve Perry and Arnell.
Was it Jeff? No, it was Jeff Scott's.
I think it was Jeff Scott Soto.
Okay, it was. Okay, yeah. And that was, once again, with them, a tribute band. They got Arnell from, I believe, YouTube.
Yeah, there was a kid. I saw a whole documentary on this, but if you guys, anyone listening, if you have an opportunity, I saw it on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there, but there was a documentary about how Journey found Arnell.
It's very interesting. It really is.
And Neil Sean likes to take credit for it. I was on YouTube. No, somebody sent him the YouTube link. A guy in the Philippines who knew Arnell sent him the link. And to Neil's credit, he took it seriously and actually watched it.
Glad he did, because Arnell is a fantastic singer. He nails. He nails Steve Perry's parts probably better than Steve Perry can now.
Absolutely,
no doubt about that.
He's amazing. He's incredible. He has Arnell. Arnell has Steve Perry's moves, his voice, but then he brings that youthful energy that Steve's not 26 years old anymore.
Right. But like you're saying, the moves and the way, that right there to me, and they really haven't put out music with him except for that one album. Kind of.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, Steve Perry was such a big, part of that band. But then I can look back and say, there was another singer before Steve Perry as well.
Well, you got to remember, before that, now I happen to have seen Journey way back when, because I'm older than Methuselah, but they had Greg Raleigh was a keyboard player before Jonathan Cain.
Correct.
He sang. I think they have pretty much their original lineup, post Greg Raleigh. Once he left and they brought Jonathan Cain in, I think everything else pretty much is the same, except for Arnell.
Yeah, I think Steve Smith is there, and I think you're right. Yeah,
and Russ Valerie.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate where you're coming from in saying that, in a way, they're paying tribute to the era of Steve Perry by having Arnell, who sounds just like him. It's not like they went out and got a guy who sounds totally different and they changed everything. So I can appreciate, I'm on the fence. They have Neil Sean, they have the other, I'm on the fence on that one.
Yeah, and the more I talk it out, I can see where it could be not a tribute band, but if they were to put out album after album with Arnell writing, I would probably be more of like, okay, this is more of Journey and not a tribute to Journey. But everything's said and done. If they were to come around, I'd go see them in a heartbeat.
Well, there you go. So I don't know. I think we had a mistrial on this one. There was no decision made on Journey. All right, let's go back to the 80s. Quiet Riot.
Wow, that's a mess.
They're on tour.
They're always on tour.
They're on tour. I don't know how that's possible. Kevin Dubrow died, their singer, from the mental health years and all that, when they really hit it huge.
Yeah, and I think that he was like the lead singer all until he died, like from the get-go.
Well, all right. Now, I think, though, Quiet Riot, people don't realize Randy Rhoads was in Quiet Riot.
Right.
And then, though, he left to go be with Ozzy. And then Quiet Riot exploded, and they made it big with a different lineup. They had
Correct.
Carlos I always mispronounce Carlos' last name.
Cavazos?
Yes, there you go. Then they had the lineup with him, Kevin DuBrow, Rudy Sarzo on bass.
Right.
That to me,
And Frank Benelli on drums.
Frank Benelli on drums. That to me is the classic Quiet Riot lineup.
Correct.
From when they were really big, right?
I agree.
And so now they tour with none of those guys.
Well, Frank Benelli. Frank Benelli, he's like the original soul member that
The
is
drummer.
Exactly.
So if John Bonham were still alive and toured with another band, would he be Led Zeppelin?
Right.
Come on, man.
I agree. In fact, they just played the Dallas Fort Worth area a few weeks ago, and Frank Benelli was not even there. This is his first show he's never played. So that is a tribute band because there's no one there original.
We agree on that. Quiet Riot, a tribute band. You know, Mark and I we want to look out for you guys. When you're buying, remember these things. When you're seeing that a band is coming to town and they're charging you $85, $95, $100, $150 to go see them at your local amphitheater or wherever, remember that. You're paying to see a tribute band when you could go see an actual tribute band for about $10.
And there's no difference.
There is no difference.
Yeah.
I mean, unless... You know, if Angus Young were to tour with nothing but hired guns, would that be AC/DC? Or would we be better off going and seeing a band called Back in Black that's a tribute to AC/DC? Go see Back in Black.
Exactly. And by the way, Back in Black are fantastic.
They are good.
Yes.
I've always wanted to see a band called AC/DC. It's the all-female tribute to the Bon Scott era of AC/DC. I've never seen that, but I've always wanted to.
I had never heard of that. I want to see that now too.
AC/DC. Remember that.
And there's also the Iron Maidens.
And the Iron Maidens, which Iron Maidens trivia, which guitar player in Iron Maidens went on to become somewhat famous with Alice Cooper?
You know, I know this.
All right.
Nita Strauss.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Mark gets the prize.
Yes, I do.
We're going to give him a 6-pack of PBR. That is the prize that you get here on Let There Be Rock.
Excellent.
We don't have a lot of time left. Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, boy.
Are they a tribute band?
They are touring. Scott Weiland, as all rock fans know, tragically passed away. He was with Velvet Revolver, as we know, with STP.
Yeah.
Scott Weiland was a phenomenal talent who died just way too soon.
Really one of a kind.
And so Stone Temple Pilots now tours with a guy who looks like Scott Weiland, has the exact same moves as him, and sounds like him. It is not, to me, it's not a tribute band because it's an insult. It's creepy.
Yeah, I would never go see that version. I've seen Stone Temple Pilots with Scott, and even when they had Chester, I was kind of like, he has his own band, Linkin Park, at the time. Obviously, he has passed as well. But Scott was STP. To me, that's it.
I agree. So we've got to come up with another name because they're not a tribute band. They're a what's the opposite of tribute?
We are not a cover band. We're a tribute band.
No, dude. We are a cover band.
I hate the idea that people who aren't true rock fans go out there not knowing. They don't know. You know, some people who aren't big fans like us might not know that's not their original singer. They don't know. They don't know who the original guy was.
They're basically making money off STP's name.
Well, yeah, and that goes back to what we said before. When you own that name, man, you have a valuable asset.
And I know the other guys in the band have been their original members, but still, Scott was the guy that you know.
So rest in peace, Scott. We can't keep having rest in peace episodes every week.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's like
the sad rock show.
We're gonna have a separate podcast called Rest in Peace, a tribute to fallen rockers. No, we're not gonna do that
ever.
But just consider that when you're ponying up the money for these concerts, or before you do, just consider whether you're seeing the real thing or you're just seeing a cheap knockoff.
And once you go to our Facebook page and go down there and comment about who you think a tribute band is.
Guys, look, you got to go to our Facebook page. Get on the Facebook, search us, Let There Be Rock. It's the first thing that comes up. You can't miss our heads, right?
Our big cartoon heads, exactly.
You can't miss that. Go and like our page because Not only can you interact with us, and we try to respond to our comments, and we always will. We just love you and love the feedback. But also we do things like we'll put little teasers. We'll put little clips before the episodes actually air. Get on the Facebook page. Let us know if we're heading in the right direction, if you're liking what we're doing. And if there's certain things you want us to talk about, give us a heads up on the Facebook page, and we'll certainly take a look at that. And we really want your feedback. So thanks again so much for listening. I'm Dave Erickson.
Mark Anderson.
Let there be rock.
You've been listening to Mark Anderson and Dave Erickson's Let There Be Rock podcast.
Awesome.
Mark and Dave's opinions are theirs, and not necessarily those of whoever runs whatever platform on which you're listening. But if you don't agree with them, you probably listen to Justin Bieber.
What an idiot.
Let There Be Rock is an Anderson Erickson production.
Rock and roll!
Well, it's one louder.